Welcome to Series 3 of Sensitive Changemakers, the podcast for ambitious HSPs and introverts. So if you're a sensitive, introverted coach, therapist, creative, or service provider with big dreams, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Kate Carter, a fellow HSP and introvert who understands the unique challenges and incredible strengths we bring to the table. In this space, I'm here to help you embrace your sensitivity, release the anxiety and self-doubt that may be holding you back, and build the confidence to create success on your terms. If you're ready to step into your quiet power, align your business with your true self, and live a life of intention, purpose, and authenticity, then this is for you. Let's dive in. So today we are talking about something that came up for me based on some client conversations I had last week. So the client conversations I had were around a need to want to change something. So it was a frustration that things weren't happening for them and that they wanted to change things up. So they were asking, like, is my target audience the right one? What about the offer that I've got? And this happened in different conversations, but in a couple of different session calls last week. So I actually stopped the original topic that I had for this week and wanted to really delve into what I coached my clients around last week around this and bring it to you as well so that you can see the kind of shifts that we need to make. And I can hear my voice already, so I'm gonna try and keep this succinct and to the point. So there are two mindset shifts that I see that really do support us when we are in business. And I think this goes doubly for anybody who's highly sensitive or introverted, because we do have this natural ability to overthink things. And I think on the one side, there's always a gift and a kind of downside, isn't there? So I think the gift with this is we are really deep thinkers. We go into a lot of detail. We really do think about things and think about things in a really lovely way, like how is this going to plan out? Or what could I put here to make sure that I'm supporting the people that I really know that I need to help? Like, there's so much beauty in that depth. But the flip side to this is that we often overthink to the degree where that self-doubt comes in. So we are thinking that, okay, so maybe I haven't got my target audience right, or maybe I haven't got the offer right. Like I said, these are the conversations that came up over the last week. So there are two mindset shifts that we really need to embrace in order to see things working. Because one of the things that needs to happen, I've been here myself, so there's absolutely zero blame here, because it is just, I think, part of being a human being, part of being highly sensitive, and part of being in business, is that we do have times when we doubt ourselves, where we think, am I doing this right? Is this for me? Am I doing it in the right way for me? There's so many questions that can come up. And the kind of consequence to that is sometimes that leads us to shifting things up, or to changing, or from jumping to offer. Again, I have been here, so I get it completely. I get where it comes from. I get the thinking behind it. I get it. But if we zoom out, and because I have the benefit of seeing so many businesses, and I obviously get to see mine as well, I can see how over time that can be really detrimental to our business, because we haven't got that consistency. We haven't got that momentum that we're building, because we're constantly shifting things up, doubting ourselves. And it's not necessarily the doubting part, it's the action that we take because we're doubting ourselves. So we have this kind of worry that comes up. Oh my God, maybe I haven't got this right. Maybe I haven't got this part right. What can I do about it? Because we like to fix things, don't we? We like to go, there's a problem. I need to fix that problem. So the problem is I haven't got enough clients, or I haven't got the consistency that I'm looking for. So how can I change things to make that work? And that often comes with completely changing things up. So the first thing, the more kind of strategy piece that I want to just highlight here before we go into the mindset shifts, is sticking with something until you have enough data, and then tweaking. We don't need to, and again, being here, so personal experience here as well as going it through with my clients, is that we don't necessarily need to burn things down or completely change things up. We often in business just need to tweak. We need to go, okay, so this bit here needs tweaking. So for example, the things that I've supported clients over the last few weeks is looking at how they share their content on social media. So maybe they've just been trying one way and we've looked at doing some carousels or some B-rolls, those sort of things. We haven't burnt down their whole business to the ground, we've just tweaked things. Another thing we've looked at is messaging and the hooks at the start of a message. That's where we've kind of tweaked things rather than rewriting whole content pillars and things like that. So I hope that makes sense. It is doing something long enough till we have enough data, and that tends to be about 3 to 4 months. And then you have a really good idea of what trends, and again, I think that's a really important word, what trends are working, so that you can then tweak, rather than what piece of content is working, because then that, what I often find is that goes down the road of, why was this piece of content working and this piece wasn't, rather than looking at it as a trend. So what patterns or trends can I see? Oh, I can see when I talk about blah, 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 I get a lot more traction. Or when I talk about this, then I have people, commenting or reaching out to me, etc. So we look at trends and patterns rather than specific posts. So I hope that kind of makes sense. Just wanted to put that strategy piece in there, because I think a lot of what we're going to talk about mindset here, the consequences to these mindset shifts then impacts on our strategies. So I want to caveat that by just talking about strategy at the start. So the first real big mindset shift that I see, and I think this one, we could go into so much detail about it, and I know as I'm doing this, I'm only going to be scratching the surface. So again, as with everything that we discuss here, please look at this through the lens of you, your business and your experiences. So the first one is belief. Now I know you've probably heard it before and you're like, okay, I've heard this before, but I'm hoping that I might say things here that get you to think about things in a slightly different way. And the reason for this is what came up for me for one client last week. I was having a conversation with her, and this one was through Basecamp, and there was a lot of doubt coming up, and I could clearly see, because obviously I'm not in it, it's not my business, I get to be able to see things a little bit more clearly. I could see this wasn't about strategy, this was about belief. She didn't believe that it was going to be possible for her to get clients doing what she was doing. And so again, I hope you can see how that then impacts on the strategy that she was choosing. She really felt the need to change up her strategy because she didn't think it was working. But actually it was a belief. It was a belief that this isn't going to work. This isn't going to, pan out. This isn't going to work for me. And so I really want you to see that that is a really foundational piece. And if I look back to my own journey, I know that even from the very start, I'm a very hardworking person. I know that from even at the start of my business, I was all in. Like, I was showing up, I was doing the work, I was doing the messaging, I was learning things, I was reading things. There was so much that I was doing. But actually, if I'm really honest with myself, those first couple of years, the reason I didn't earn any money for 2018, 2019 was because I didn't believe that actually it was possible. If I'm really, really honest with myself, that was one of the issues that really came up for me, and as a result that impacted on the way that I showed up. And it wasn't necessarily the what, because I was doing the work, but it impacted on the how I was showing up, how I was being visible. So I hope that makes sense. And one of the things that I am going to talk to you about are the different ways that you can deepen your belief in what you're doing. So I'm not a big believer in positivity if it's plastering over something where you feel quite negative, if that makes sense. I feel that all emotions are valid. That's kind of how I see things, but it's also how I was trained, and I really do. But there was a reason I did coaching and NLP, because I truly believe in those things. So the first thing I really want you to see here is I'm not asking you to go, okay, yeah, it's all possible, I can have this, it's going to be amazing, fantastic. I'm not asking you to plaster over something. I'm asking you to be really honest with yourself. In fact, what I'm asking you to do here, and really do reflect on how you're feeling about things. And there may be a misalignment with what you're currently doing that does need to be tweaked in for you to then believe in yourself more. And this is where we need to get out of the space where other people are filling our heads with a lot of noise. This is where, and this is why I'm always talking about coming back to you, grounding yourself in you, because actually it starts with you. It starts with if you believe in yourself and how you show up for yourself as a result of that. And so there might be some minor strategic tweaks that you need to make in order for you to believe in yourself. So these can be really actionable things. I'm not talking about more of the mindset shifts, although I will go on to that. But this is very strategic. I want you to think about your offer. Do you love what you are currently offering? Like, are you 100% behind it? Now, what I really want to caveat this with saying is, I'm not asking you, are you really confident about your offer? Because confidence comes with practice. Confidence comes with showing up time and time again. The more you do it, the more confident you feel in something. But what I'm asking you is do you actually back your offer? Do you think that if you got X amount of clients, you know that you could help those people, that you'd be backing yourself going, yes, I will be able to figure this out. I know that what I've got, this package or this offer, is going to support my clients. And that's the kind of belief that I'm talking about here, not confidence. I hope that makes sense. So it's the belief that you have that you will figure it out, and you back your offer because you know it's going to help your people. Okay, so if you've got that, great. If you haven't, what do you need to tweak in your offer? Is there something you need to look at in order that you go, oh, actually, if I just added this bit in, I would feel so much better about this? And again, this is what I'm saying. I know that there's so much more to this than just me talking to you about it. You know, every single person is different, and I could have a one-on-one conversation with you, and we could go into this in more detail. I'll be like, okay, this isn't strategic, this is a story you're telling yourself. Or we could have a conversation where I say, oh, okay, maybe if we tweak this. So just please hear this and know that there is going to be a different journey for every single person listening to this, and I am just going over an overview, if you like, so please see it through your lens of what's going on for you. But that could be a tweak that you could make so that you can fully believe in yourself a little bit more. And the same goes with your audience. Like, looking at your audience, do you love your audience? And again, a really concrete example of this, so that you can see what I mean here, is when I first started, I looked at supporting teachers because I was one, and I felt that I could support teachers. So the offer that I had actually hasn't changed that much since back in 2018, when I said I was going to help teachers. The actual things that I do, the offer itself hasn't changed much. It's evolved, but it's more or less the same. However, my audience, my target audience, has changed a lot, because actually, if I look back, the only reason I was picking teachers was because I was one. And it wasn't because I really loved working with teachers or anything like that. It was just like, well, I know this. And it was what I felt was quite a logical decision at the time. But it really didn't sit right with me for a long time. And that's when I just tweaked my target audience. So I hope that makes sense. Then I could fully sort of believe in the fact that I could help those people. So again, looking at your audience. And then pricing. I'm bringing in pricing here because I see this as, especially for highly sensitives, especially as introverts, I see this as a huge thing. And I am going to say this, it doesn't matter what you charge or what your pricing is. I would just make sure that you are on board with it, that you feel good enough about sharing it. I know, again, personal experience here, back in 2018, 19, so much noise in my head from different people saying, you've got to charge this, you've got to charge that. And so I set out a particular price that was right, in inverted commas, according to what everybody else was doing. But it just was too much of a jump for me, where I was at that time, to where people were telling me that I should be going. And I just didn't share my pricing with anybody, because it was almost like an embarrassment thing of, this is just ridiculous amount that I'm asking for, and it doesn't sit well with me. And what I did, and again, everybody is different, but I increased my pricing over time in a way that felt stretchy, because I think if you're just going to sit in your comfort zone all the time, and we'll talk about that later, that's when you stay stagnant. But it is that kind of middle ground of having something that's a little bit stretchy, but something that feels like, yeah, I can show up for this. Like I can tell people this is how much I charge. That feels like a little bit stretchy, but doable. It's that kind of middle ground, isn't it? And just getting really clear on what your pricing is so that you can show up for that you feel good about sharing it. And I find, again, I'm very emotional in some ways, as we all are as highly sensitives, but I do love a bit of data, and I do love a bit of kind of strategic thinking behind it. And so one of the ways that I do this, and I do this every so often just to make sure I'm still happy with things, is I think, right, okay, what would my ideal fully booked client look like? Like, how many people would that be a month? And I literally sit and do the math. So at the start of my business, it was about 4 people, and I was fully booked because of my time constraints, family, plus I was still teaching full time. It literally had to be that amount of people. Okay, so how much money would I need a month? I would need X amount of money to be able to start reducing teaching. Okay, so let's take that, divide it by 4, and that's how much money I need from each client a month. That means if I was doing a 6-month package, times that by 6, that's what I would need to be charging each of my clients per 6-month package in order for me to make it work. And that felt better for me because there was a reason why I was asking for that price. I could get my brain on board because it was like, that is actually how much I need in order to make this work. And so I'm sharing that with you, hoping that if you're similar to me and you think, I am quite emotional, but also it helps my emotions, it helps keep me neutral if I've got some strategic thinking behind the decision that I've made. And then that, again, it really does deepen that inner trust and that self-belief that I can show up for this. I feel good. I know why I've made that decision. It's not based on anybody else's noise. It's based on what I know is right for me. And I can show up and tell people that. And I feel, a little bit stretchy about sharing that, but it feels okay. It feels doable. And again, just that sweet spot of feeling that way. So I hope that makes sense so far. So in terms of belief, there may be some real strategic decisions that you can make in your business to help deepen that self-belief. So that's the first bit. And then the second bit that I think is more of an actual mindset shift rather than looking at the strategic decisions is, why not me? Now, I find this was, I think it was Kim Argetsinger. I'm going to give her credit here. I'm pretty sure it was her who said this to me back when 2019, 2020, when I was working with her. And it really does enable you to see things differently, because what our brain likes to do is we like to find all of the reasons why something doesn't work out. We like to find the problems. We like to think, I can't get clients, or I can't earn this amount of money because of X, Y, and Z. We do go into those things. We then go into those, I don't think I'm cut out for this. I don't think this is going to work for me. And we go down that kind of rabbit hole. And this question enables us to see things or think differently. So why not me? Why not me? If I could see other people in my environment doing similar things, why not me? Why can't I make that work too? And it just, again, it's not an overly positive statement. So you're not saying, right, I am going to absolutely, get all of this sorted. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to be top of my game, the most amazing coach I've ever been, or whatever your industry is. But it is saying, it's that curiosity. Why not me? Why not me? Why can't I make this work for me? So just having that different lens to see something through, I feel is a really lovely middle ground from defaulted to negative, which we all do. We all default to negative at times. It's how we've survived as a race. That is absolutely part of this. So don't blame yourself if you do end up in that negative spiral. It is completely part of being human. But one of the things that we can do once we've got the awareness of that is what's happening, is we can shift it into a neutral. And that's what I'm asking you to do here. I'm not asking you to flip it into a positive and go, oh my God, I'm amazing. I'm asking you to get to a neutral stance where you're getting curious about, like, why not me? How can I make this work? Because then your brain will come up with different ways that you can view things that are slightly more reaching over to those possibilities and those opportunities rather than default into that negativity. And so this can be really supportive in keeping things neutral. So I love that. Why not me? Why not me? Other people make it work. If they can figure out, I can figure it out. That kind of mentality, and that really supports you. So far, when we're talking about that belief that we have in ourselves, we've looked at some strategic, minutiae kind of decisions that you can make that help you to back yourself, help you to really be behind what you're doing. And then we've looked at a mindset, a really, really simple mindset shift that you can use to help you to see things differently. Now, my HSP tendency here is to go down my own little rabbit hole and tell you about all of the things that are in my brain and how you can deepen your self-belief. But I also want to make this really, really simple for you, so you can go away and think, I'm just going to try those couple of things that Kate said. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to repeat what I said earlier and realise that there are so many different things that we can delve deeper into belief. But without knowing you one-to-one, that becomes a little bit more difficult. So I know that those two things are really going to support you, and they're simple enough that you can go away and have a think about what that would look like for you. So I hope that makes sense. The second one, and again, please do say hello or ask any questions if you've got any. I'm just going to check on Facebook, because sometimes they don't come up here and then I miss out on things and I'm like, oh, and I get really frustrated. So I'm just going to check. I think we're good. Yes, so I have got some. See, this is what happens. So Laura has said, I say why not me all the time. Fantastic. Oh my God, I'm amazing. Okay, oh, Fiona says hi. Hi Fiona, I hope you're well. So yes, please do. If you've got any questions, please do let me know. So that is the first one. The second one is one that I'm smiling to myself because it's a constant edge to lean into. And this is being prepared to get uncomfortable. It's necessary to feel uncomfortable when we're building a business, you know, unless you have lots of business experience or you've grown up an entrepreneurial kind of family. And I would argue even then you would need to get uncomfortable. But I think most of us coming from different backgrounds coming into business, I know me and Laura have spoken about this in the past where we say, you know, just running a business should be something that everybody does just for the personal development itself. And it really is, it forces you to go down that personal development route because you have to get uncomfortable. And we don't like getting uncomfortable. So our brain would love to default to like, no, come back here, come back to the stable, little things, you know, your little comfort bubble that you've always been in, just come back there because it's so much easier here and we can keep you safe, and it's a beautiful thing that your brain is doing. And when we're building and growing, we constantly have to reassure that part of us, like, I've got this, I can do this. And it is, I mean, it does get easier. It becomes a muscle that you stretch and work, and that muscle then starts to work for you over time. If I think about some of the things that I do now in my business compared to 2018, there's so much growth there. There's so much that I've lent into and tried and been prepared to look like an idiot for, if that makes sense. And it is something now that I've got to a stage. There are still times that I lean into edges and I'm still growing my comfort zone. I think we all are. But if I think about that journey, there's been so many huge, I would say jumps, but I'm aware that I don't want you to think that I made big jumps very quickly. They were little steps that I made over time that when I look back, look like big jumps, if that makes sense. So getting uncomfortable is going to be something you're going to have to get comfortable with. And one of the things that I always tell clients, an analogy that I use, and it's a really random one, and I don't know why I use it, but it just came into my head and now I can't get rid of it, is vacuuming. So I've recently broken my foot. Luckily, I am all good. I'm getting used to walking again. It's great. But if somebody had said to me, Kate, I need you to vacuum the house with your broken foot, with the ridiculously clunky boot that I had to wear, that would have caused me quite a lot of pain. And it would have been really, really unpleasant to be able to constantly move around, hung around like a vacuum cleaner and do all of that cleaning. But if somebody had said to me, Kate, and again, this is where the analogy, just bear with me, I promise it's got a point. If somebody said, Kate, you're going to have to vacuum with your left hand rather than your dominant right hand, I'd be like, ooh, this is a bit strange. It wouldn't be painful and it wouldn't be overly unpleasant. it would just be weird. It'd be like, oh, this feels very strange. I'm not used to moving my arms this way, or I'm not used to kind of maneuvering things with my left hand. It would just feel a bit strange. And that's the analogy, strange as it is, that's the analogy I use when I'm talking about something that is out of alignment and just not for you, and something that is uncomfortable. We want to make sure that we know how those two different feelings feel in our body, and we do need to know that just isn't for me. That just isn't something I want to be doing, as opposed to, oh, this is just a bit strange. This is just a bit strange. And again, something personal I can give here is when I first started, again, going back to, I think back in 2018, 2019, I think there was much more, I'm going to call it like bro marketing, you know, in your face, that hustle mentality. And I didn't know any better. So I was like, oh, okay, this is what I have to do then. And I remember somebody saying, you know, whenever you get on a free call, transfer it into a sales call, get them to close it on the call. That really kind of hustle mentality. And I remember doing that, having the free calls, and just physically not being able to make it into a sales call. Now, there were lessons that I needed to learn on how to sell, and how to sell in a way that felt good for me, like as a HSP and introvert, and just generally as a nice human being. But that kind of way of selling just didn't sit with me. And there was a reason I physically couldn't do it, was because it was just not for me. It felt completely dishonest to have marketed a free call and then change it into a sales call. And now I can stand in I am going to sound like a bit woo, but I can stand in my power a lot more now and say, no, if I'm having a free call, it's a free call. And to be honest, I still do them now. I love my free calls because it's a great way of me networking in a very HSP introvert friendly way. And most of the people do ask at the end, so if I wanted to work with you, what would that look like? And that's absolutely fine to have that conversation, but I never change a free call into a sales call. A free call is a free call. And that is one of the best examples that I can use of something that just wasn't it was just not in alignment for me. It felt painful. Obviously it didn't physically create me pain, but it felt painful. It was like, no, there's something in me that's just saying this is a not for me. Whereas something that has felt uncomfortable, pricing, asking for the sale, those sort of things, figuring out how to do that in my own way has been very much an edge, has been very much something that has felt uncomfortable, but has been okay. It's been like something that I have learned and I've embraced, and I've done it my way. So I want you to see those two very different things there. I hope that makes sense. Laura says that's where growth happens. Yay. Brain says stay small, it's cozy, not scary. I know. Yeah, and I do love a bit of cozy, so my brain will latch onto that at any point. Amanda says, thank you, Kate, having a think now for sure. You're more than welcome. I hope that's really, really helped. So yes, being prepared to get uncomfortable, unfortunately, is something that we need to do. And I think one of the ways that we can do this, especially as highly sensitives and introverts, is making it safe. Now, when I say safe, I feel like I've got two opposing ideas here that don't feel that they go together, but I promise they do. So on the one hand, I'm saying don't stay in your comfort zone. We've got to stretch our comfort zone. We've got to get uncomfortable on the one hand. And on the other hand, I'm saying, you know, create safety around that. And I feel that can sound quite opposing. So I'm going to break that down into what I mean. First of all, I want you to, and again, you've probably heard me talk about this before. If we imagine that you're in a bubble, okay, and that bubble is your comfort zone. When we are talking about stretching our comfort zone and leaning into our edge and leaning into that bit of uncomfortable feeling, I'm talking about just literally pushing that bubble a little bit. Like we're kind of stretching it. Like we're going right up to the edges and we're physically just stretching it and make it a little bit bigger. What I'm not talking about is popping that bubble and then being completely somewhere new. Okay, so we're stretching that bubble. We're finding our own edges and we're pushing just slightly. That's one way of looking at it. If it helps any further, just to make it more actionable, really looking at small steps and creating safety and normalizing that small step before then stacking or adding something else. So for example, if visibility was something that felt really uncomfortable, You know, it was something that you know needs to happen for you, because obviously we need to be visible to be able to get people to buy our products or our services. That's just part of the game. Number one, what does visibility look like for you? What would you like to show up as? One of the questions I always ask prospective clients is, how do you like to talk to your audience? Like, how do you like to share what you do? Is it through longer posts? A lot of my clients really do like the longer posts, in which case something like Instagram probably isn't going to be ideal because you're capped. Facebook, however, you can write quite long posts. You can also look at article writing. You can also look at blog posts. So there's loads of ways that we can really leverage that skill if that's something you enjoy. So that's the first question, is really thinking about what type of marketing, what type of way do you love showing up? And then let's look at that and leverage that. So that for me is really important, especially as highly sensitive and introverts, finding your way. And then say, right, okay, even within that, there will be an edge for you. So you might feel really good, again, if we go with the kind of example of writing longer posts, you might feel okay about blog post writing, for example. Say that you've done that previously and that feels okay. But actually, maybe writing an article and actually going to a magazine or some kind of web page and actually going for them and saying, oh, I've got this idea for an article, can I please, you know, however their process is. Some people you just send it through, don't you? Other people you have a conversation with, but that might be your edge to lean into. So as you're doing this, one of the ways that you might want to do that is, okay, so what are my small steps in between? I'm not ready yet to do that, which is okay. So what are my small steps to get to there in order that I can then embrace going to a magazine and asking them to kind of publish one of my articles? And we talk through and guide you through each small step that you would need to take to get to there. So it might be, if you're happy writing blog posts, one of the little steps that we might do is, okay, how can we get better at pushing these blog posts out there so more people are reading? That might be an edge. You know, how can we make these blog posts more visible? How can we put them out there so more people are reading? And then we normalize that, so we get used to doing that over time. That might be our small step. We might look at different ways of doing that. We normalize it. It feels like, okay, yeah, I'm getting used to doing this. Then we add something else, right? So what's the next step that we need to move into here? And then we keep going until that next edge is emailing that magazine and saying, right, I've got an article, here it is, please, you know, what's the process in order to get this published? So I hope that makes sense with an example of writing there. But we can do that or you guys could do that in any part of your business, especially if you're highly sensitive. I do find this feels like a slower approach, but I've seen it happen time and time again. Like the amount of just beautiful souls that I've seen come and go in this space because of what we're talking about here. Because they saw something that they wanted and they jumped, and it was just too much of a jump, and it felt so overwhelming that they just pulled back completely and went and did something else. So most of them went back to their 9 to 5s. No, there's no blame there at all. That for them was probably, you know, the right decision for them at the time. But if you want to stick around, if you want to make this sustainable, and you are highly sensitive and you are an introvert, this to me, I've seen it work time and time again. The small steps and then adding and sort of stacking those small steps over time, you look back and you think, oh my God, I made huge jumps. And that's when you look back and you think, I have come so far, and I didn't even realise how far I've come because it was little steps and I was normalising as I was going, and it was, you know, do you see what I mean? So you're adding and adding. So that for me is, hopefully you can see how on the one hand we're stretching our comfort zone, but on the other hand we're creating that safety as we go through it, so that we stick it out, so that we keep going, so that we then get that sustainability and we have those clients coming in, and it becomes, I'm not going to say easy because I think that has its own connotations, but it becomes simple. There's a simple process, a simple repeatable process that you know inside and out. And if there are any kind of blocks or any obstacles that come up, you have that neutrality that we talked about before, that belief piece, to be able to look at things and go, okay, this is something that I need to tweak or adapt. I don't need to burn things down to the ground and restart. I just need to tweak. So I hope that makes sense. I'm just going to check and see whether we've got any more questions or any more insights. I think we're good. So I hope this has been really useful. And again, if you do have any questions, please do reach out. I know that we have got our free coaching months. We've got a couple of people signed up for that. That is something I'm going to do every single month, just as a way to give back, because I wish I'd had something like that when I'd first started, and it's only going to be people in this Facebook group, so nobody else gets access to that but just you. So every month that means I will open up the Google Docs for you to apply for a 1 month free coaching, and I've done a few this month. I will probably reduce it to just 1 or 2 next month, just because of my timing, but we'll see how that goes. And then in November I do have one-to-one slot, so if you would like that, please do let me know. My voice is going, so I'm going to say goodbye. I'll be back next week. Okay, bye. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you have any takeaways or any questions, please do reach out to me either through Instagram, LinkedIn or Facebook at Kate Carter Coaching, or you can email me at kate@katecarter.co.uk. I always love to hear your feedback and the things that you have taken from the podcast. If you know of any other highly sensitive people, then please do share this so that I can reach more and support more highly sensitive people to embrace their strengths and gifts. As a thank you, I will pick a winner every month for a free 50-minute coaching session with me. Thank you so much.